Well, hello, and welcome. Welcome, everybody. We've got a few people who are already in the room. Narlan and I said that we might just start it about 1 minute early just to make sure that everybody's in and everything's getting underway. So far, it looks like we've got 17 people in there. Narlan and myself are going to be doing a lot of screen sharing. We're going to be doing a lot of conversations around the education systems that we both work in and what we're going to be doing. Well, it's ticked over to the official time now. I'm going to do an official introduction. Hi, my name's Brett Kent. I work in a primary school in Sydney, in Western Sydney. I am a digital technologies teacher, digital technology specialist. In the Sydney environment, we call it an RFF role, which is a release from face-to-face role. I think in Victoria and Queensland, they call it a specialist teacher. So I take people's classes on an hour by hour basis and allow them release time. But what I do is I teach digital technologies. I teach everything from the Adobe tools that we're going to talk about today, right through to robotics and a whole range of other things. I've got Narlan here to help me out as well. Narlan, did you want to have a real quick introduction and then we'll get started?
Hey everyone, welcome to the session. I'm Nigel from Brisbane, currently in a 7-12 high school and teaching digital technologies and mathematics. Over to you, Brett.
Fantastic. All right, I'm going to share my screen and we're going to really dive into this and get it all started. So let's do it. Now, let's just get all this up and running. Okay, so the title of this session is Let's Use AI for Good. Now, I'm going to begin by acknowledging that AI is one of those really hot topics of conversation in the education industry at the moment. And look, I've done it as a little bit of clickbait. I've got to be honest. I've intentionally done this to say, well, what exactly are we really looking at here, and what is AI, and what is AI in the education sphere at the moment? The idea is that we've gone through a period where education systems are intentionally banning AI. The education system that I work in at the moment is trying its very best to actually ban AI and say that we're not to use it. In New South Wales, they have developed, the Department of Education has developed its own AI engine called New South Wales Edu Chat. And I've pulled up a few quotes. Now, the first one that we can read here, you can all read as well as I can. The minds of readers are intoxicated, their rest is broken, their health is shattered, and their prospect of usefulness is blighted. Another quote that I have pulled out is an outrage on decency and common sense. However, these quotes are not modern. These quotes are actually quotes that I pulled out from The Moral Dangers of Reading Novels in 1864. I'm feeling as though the AI conversation that's happening within the education industry at the moment is somewhat similar to what was happening with the novel in previous years. I've got a couple of quotes here that I am going to be I've sort of color coded them. Now, what we're going to look at is we've got a couple of quotes that are, one is, I've got this little bubble here. I'm sorry, I'm just going to, Nolan, can you confirm, are you seeing that little bubble or is that just me? Yep, he's got that too. Right. Now, the quotes here, I've color coded them. So I've got the ones that are kind of anti, and then I've got the ones that are not so anti, ones that are positive. So I've got things that are literally, quotes that are against AI. I've got quotes that are all for AI. And at the moment, we're in a transition period where I've got an audience here, and I'm going to share my thoughts. I think that AI is a tool that we can use for good. It's a tool that we can really utilize. It's not going away anytime soon. However, I do think that AI is in a situation where it's a solution to a problem that we haven't discovered yet. It's a solution to a problem, like we don't have that killer app yet. Now, what I'm going to do is share some of the Adobe Express tools that do use generative AI. We're going to look at some of them that look like AI but aren't technically AI. And then we're going to look at the idea that some of these are actually utilized and being used in the education system. Now, Tim shared this in the initial welcoming session that we had this morning, and he was saying that the Safer for Schools research that was done has actually really looked into the generative AI tools that Adobe Express is using. And in my education system in New South Wales, Adobe Express is one of the only generative AI tools that is allowed to be used because it's done through a single sign-on process, which we will talk through, and that the filters that have been put in place are considered to be safe, which is really, really important. Now, I think we're also going to have a look at some other tools. We're going to have a look at some things like Google and Microsoft tools for voice typing and voice to text. And I really want to talk through the idea that it's very, very important that you make sure that your students sign into their Adobe account in their correct school account. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. In order for your students to make sure that they've got all the filters in place and that everything is safe and that we're making sure that all of those firewalls and protection issues are in place, they have to make sure they sign in with their student account. The public account and the student account do look different. What you will find is that when you've signed into your proper student account or your proper teacher account, it does look a little bit different. Now, one of the main big things here is that having the generative AI features, you get some credits. Now, in my education system, the students get, by default, 10 credits. As you can see here on the screen, I've got 500 credits available at the moment when I took that screen capture a couple of days ago. Now, those credits, they do run out. Very, very important, and I'm sort of bring that up now. If you allow your students to just go crazy with generative AI, it'll run out. They only get so many. AI usage is actually using a lot of computer power, and if you get your students to just go for it, they'll run out. Now, let's dive in and actually look at this for real. So, if I jump in to Adobe Express, let me make this full screen. A couple of things to look at to begin with. First things first, I always make sure that my students, when they first begin, they go in and they say, I'm going to get them to go into their education portal, and then I get them to go down, and for us, I click them to get them to go into their Google Workspace. Now, the reason why I get them to go into their Google Workspace is because in our system, they actually sign in with their Google account. And when you click on the Google Workspace, it should come up and look like this. Every education system is going to be different. However, for the purposes of making sure that they're in that account, that's what I get them to do. Now, the next thing, once they're in their Google Workspace, I then get them to come back to their portal. Now, this is my staff portal rather than a student one. However, we've also then got the Adobe Express direct link in their portal. If they don't have that and they go into Adobe Express, I simply get them to click continue with Google. And because their account is a Google account by default, that then gets them to all sign in. When they're then in, what we can do is we can go up to the top right-hand side of the screen, where we've got the little bubble, and I can say, right, I'm making sure that I am in my, at the moment, staff account, and I can say it's the New South Wales Department of Education staff account. Students will have, obviously, student account there, and the generative AI standard features that they have, it'll tell them how many credits they have left. That's really, really important. Now, Narlan, is the process for signing in Education Queensland somewhat similar, or is it slightly different?
Education Queensland has a similar kind of sign-on process. Unfortunately, we don't have access to Google.
Ah, okay, no problem. So every education system is different. We've got people at this conference who are from all over New South Wales, all over Australia. We've got people from overseas who are coming in. But I think one of the really important things is to just make sure that if you do have an account and that your students are going in, that they are in an actual verified student account. I have had a few students who say, hey, cool, I've just signed in with whatever, and it'll pop up. However, when it pops up, it's giving them that public account rather than a student one. Now, what I'm going to do, let's go through the system. First things first, front and center, at the front of the screen, I've got create an image. So I've got this generative AI tool where I can create an image. What it gives you the opportunity to do is go in and say, well, what am I going to put it in? Now, I would love if people put it in the chat, actually. What could we do in the chat and give some suggestions? So where could we have this be? Got some echoes. I might get, Nolan, is that your mic possibly? Might get you to mute. Thank you. I might get someone to put it in the chat. What should I type in here? What do we want, and where do we want it to be? We might see how we go. First in, best dressed. Let's see what we get. And this is literally what I would do with students. Hey, what do we want? Do we want a fish? Do we want a frog? Do we want a monster? What would we like? Not seeing that much in the chat yet. Might start typing. Okay, so I'm going to say, let's have a cat wearing a hat on an ice floe, a kelpie. Okay, so first in, best dressed, a cat. What are we going to have? Oh, a cat with a black and white border collie. There we go. With an elephant with fire tattoos. That sounds amazing. All right, because kids are going to come up with stuff. Oh, you know what? I'm going to have a cat with an elephant. Oh, hang on. Oh gosh, elephant. Come on. Elephant with tattoos. We need a location. Gosh, typing's terrible today. Tattoos. Where are we going to have? Oh, on a mountain. Fantastic. Now, it'll say thinking, generating. Now, often I get students who will now raise their hand and say, it's broken, mine's not working. If you can see this little bubble starting to turn around, it's still working. Now, what you then get is its first suggestion. It'll say, based on what your prompt was, it'll come up. It will then give you a few different options. Do not click away from this screen when you first get going. While you've still got those little editing bubbles, don't click away from it yet. What you've got the opportunity to do is go through and have a look at your different options that it gave you. However, you can then say, if I scroll over on the right hand side, I can say, what is the content type? And I can say, rather than it being painted and art type, I can say, I want it to look more photorealistic. Maybe I want it to look more neon. Maybe I want to change a few things. And if I click generate, it'll say users 1 credit. And it will give me another option. So we can go through, and using that same prompt, we can get our students to say, that's not quite what I had in mind. It will then generate, and it'll come through and it'll create a different image. So we said we wanted it more neon and we wanted it more photographic. So it's now done exactly that. It's gone through and it's made something that's a little bit more. Once we've done that, and we say, right, I'm happy, I've generated a few of the different options. Now, if I go and I click the little bounding boxes and I start to move things around, I can now put this on a page wherever I think, and once I click enter or return, it will put it on my page for me. Now, that's nice and simple. We've generated an image. I sometimes and quite often then use this as a writing prompt. What I'm going to say is we're going to turn this generated AI image into basically like a magazine article or a web page or whatever it's going to be. I really like the fact that we can now come back, and we went into our Google Suite earlier. We can do it with Microsoft tools as well. But if I now go in and say, right, in my Google Suite, if I go in and say, I want in my Drive, or I go back to my Google Suite and go to Docs immediately, I can open up my Docs, click Create New, and from this document, love this tool, especially for students, I could say Tools at the very top of the screen. I scroll down and I go to this option called voice typing. Now, I'm in a video conference and I'm using my microphone for other things, so let's see how this goes. But if I click voice typing, I should get a little microphone that will pop up. Quite often, the students will then have the little permissions. It'll say, hey, would you like to allow this to happen? Love this, especially for younger students. Great for student communication articulation, where if I click the little microphone button, it'll say that my microphone is now in use and it's now starting to type all the things that I'm saying. So I'm going to say things like, you'll never believe this. There was a giant cat that climbed Mount Everest. It was seen from far and wide. The elephant with tattoos came, the mythical elephant that we've all heard about. We weren't sure that it was real. But we go on and we go through all of these things. When I click the big red button and stop the microphone, it's now going to stop typing. If I click it again, it will start typing again from wherever I'm up to. So if the students lose their place and they want to continue on, they can. If they make an error, the thing I really like is if you say, I'm really not sure what I'm saying, well, it'll type it. And as you can see, it's typing all of those things that I've got. We get our students to now read back through what they've done, and I'm going to find the section where it says, you'll never believe this. There was a giant cat that climbed Mount Everest and it was on fire, and one elephant, and we go through and we find, and we weren't sure if it was real. Okay, I'm going to now Control or Command C for copy, and I come back over to my document. In my document, I'm now going to add some text. So on the left-hand side of the screen, I go down to text and I say, I'm going to put this in. We have got things like news headlines. We have got things like headings, titles, all different features that we can put in. If I go into the headlines option, which is at the very, very top of the screen, and I click view all, I'm going to say, all right, I would like to put in, I don't know, whatever it might be. If I go back a bit, I'm going to just really simply, for now though, click the add your own text, and that'll put in just a default text box. It's not going to stylize it, but I'll get into stylizing it later. Click add your text, and I'm going to Command or Control V to type that in. Now, this is what we just put in as a little bit of text. Now, a little bit of text, we might put in a heading, we might put in some other things later. Let's just pick one of the default headings and we'll say okie dokie. Let's just pick the first one. Now, this little heading that I want up there, click it, drag it, move it. All of these features that are in here, they are all editable. So when I click it and I say, right, I want to edit these different options, I'm going to click. If I then double click, it's going to allow me to start typing what I've got. So I'm going to say a giant cat is the heading, and I'll leave the other features for now in the interest of time. This is now starting to look like a little something, but I'm going to go back and I'm going to start something. Let's add in a little bit more features. Let's add in some more tools. So it's not just a generative AI image with an article. Let's really dive into this. If I go back to Adobe Express, go back to home, I've opened this up in another tab, and I now say, I don't want to just create an image. I want to do some other things. I also want to do things like animate a character. Now, if I click animate a character, it'll give me some choices. It tells me, well, what character would you like? What sort of a background would you like? What size would you like this to be? I would highly recommend that you get your students to pick their character first. And for the purposes of this, I'm going to say, what do I want? I want something, let's go with this little bunny. And then the background, I'm intentionally going to pick a transparent background. Because I want to drop this onto the page, I don't want it to be like a little square or rectangle, which drops on and has a frame around it. I want to click that as a transparent image, so it's just the character, and then I can place the character anywhere I like with no background. Very important to do. There are a couple of things to look at. You have a maximum of 2 minutes, and you have the option to enhance speech. Enhance speech kind of clears things up a little bit, put some filters over it. If the laptops at your school have some slightly scratchy microphones, things like that, that will actually do a really good job. For the purposes of this demonstration, I'm not going to click that. This is the moment where your students are then going to talk to camera. They are going to have to really think about what they want their character to say. Now, if I click record, we'll have a little countdown. 3, 2, 1. The Everest cat has finally appeared. We didn't know if this was going to be a real thing in our lifetime, but it has finally happened. The predictions were true. If I pause it, I can come up with another sentence. I can click resume, and when I'm finally done, I can click done. This is then going to give us the opportunity to have a look at what the voice recognition software within Adobe Express has done, and it automatically creates an animated character with the student voice speaking about the things that they've done, which they can then place onto their article. It gives us a it's still working animation. I really like the fact that it does that, because I've often got students who, again, are saying, hey, mine's not working. Mine's been taking ages. We all know what our students can be like with that sort of thing. I like the fact that it's coming up and it's telling us that it's now 87% complete, 96% complete. When that's done, it then gives us a little preview of what it's going to look like, and we can click watch it and see what it's actually created for us. So give it just one moment, uploading your media, waiting. I like that we can do this live. Although it does take a few moments, it's really, really good to be able to see that a few years ago, this would have taken a really long time. Press play. The Everest cat has finally appeared. We didn't know if this was going to be a real thing in our lifetime, but it has finally happened. The predictions were true. Now, if you like it, obviously, we click fine, good, got it. It's really important that we click open in editor. I've had a few students who have gone, yep, cool, I'm happy, and they go up to the top right-hand side of the screen and they click the little X and they close it down. It doesn't save it. What you have to do is actually open it in the editor. Otherwise, it's going to not save it automatically. Now, you have then got this with no background. Although it's given us a little white background, it can't show us the nothing. It doesn't give us the crosshatch to show us transparent background. That has no background at all. If I come back over to my article that I've been creating, I'm now going to put in some other media. On the left-hand side of the screen, I've got this little box that says Your Stuff. If I go into the Your Stuff section and I say, look, because I've now created that and I did it in a second tab, it automatically comes up and it says, hey, I know that something else that you've just created is here. So you're putting in your own media. If I click that, hang tight, it says add as a page or add as an image. We want to add it as an image on top. That will then generate that and put it in. Now, at the moment, it's very, very big. And if I click and bring that down, it's brought the white background in. That's okay. Let's use the remove background functionality. So I'm going to click that. Over on the left-hand side of the screen, I have the option to remove background. And because it's done it as a plain white background, it's going to do a very good job of removing it. And as we can see, we've now got this little bunny with a little bit of animation as an option to see it. Now, if I want to add some more features, we've got a lot of great features on the side here. Got any questions in the chat there, Nolan, before I continue on?
Yeah, but there was one from Brenna. She wanted to know what is available in the premium edition. So the premium features.
These, yes. So some of these are premium features. We've got access, or I think most education systems have them now. I know that the New South Wales Department of Education has some of the fewest features. So some of these are going to be some of the premium features, and you will need to double check what those features are in your education system. Now, some of the things that we can add in. I think this is really, really nice. We've got the option to go down left-hand side of the screen. I like that we can have branding kits. I've done this with students before, where if you click on brands, you can actually go in and say, I want my students to create their own brand. Now, my students had some gardens. They had like hydroponic gardens. They had STEM equipment. They've had different things. You can see this from last year. And if we go into those, they can create their own branding guidelines. And if we click on the branding guidelines, it'll say, we've got a logo, we've got colors, we've got fonts that we use. And if we click that and we say apply brand, it will automatically apply the student's brand to whatever they've created. It's an extra step that you can take. If I click that, it'll automatically do it. Now I'm going to undo up top of the screen, bring it back to what our original was. And as I scroll down, we've got a few things that we can start to really, really build in now. Obvious things like if I click on media, at the top of the screen, I can say, what type of media do I want to put in? I have the option of a lot of different things. I could say I want to put in photos, videos, audio. I really, really like that in any of these functions, we've got some of these other features that we already had. So, for example, if I click the animate characters, I could put in another character. So I could have two characters talking to one another. Works really, really, really well. If I then go down and say, hey, what I need is I need some stock images. A big thing with our students is that if they click on the their Google search and they're looking for Google images, or they're looking for images in Bing or wherever their search engine is, a really big topic of conversation is copyright. Who owns that image? Where are they going to be sharing it? And in order to do like good quality work within our education systems and to teach that type of content, we need to be able to say, well, no, you can't just share anybody's image or anybody's video. You need to be able to find legally shareable stock footage, which this has. So if I say, you know what, I'm going to search for, let's go Everest, and let's see what we find. Let's go Everest Base Camp as an image. These are high quality images that are allowed to be shared, and they are completely free to use, and they are copyright free. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of stock images. I'm going to pick something maybe a bit colorful and on theme, put that in, and start creating my article. Now, my article down here, I might put an image in, and let's take a look. Let's just, for the purpose of the demonstration, let's put in I'm just going to pick the first one, a 9-second video of Everest Base Camp, and I'm going to put that in there as well. So we've got our cat, we've got our elephant, we've got all our bits and pieces. I've got an image up the top there, and away we go. Now, at any point, if I go down to the bottom of my screen and click the play button, we'll see what we've got so far. There we go. Edit timeline, click play. Why are we not playing? Probably because I'm screen sharing and being a bit system heavy here. Let's edit timeline, back to here. Let's have a look. Yep, video starting to play. Got my little animation all starting to come through. Everything's looking good, but in the interest of time, we're going to let everything sit and settle because there's more things that I want to be able to do. Now, let's actually start putting in some other features where we can not just have this look like an old-fashioned magazine article. Let's put in some other things where we can really start to animate our page so it's a multimodal document. I've already got my voice. I've already got some video content. I've already got some AI-generated images. Let's put in some other bits and pieces where I can say down on the bottom left-hand side of the screen where I've got elements, I could say elements. I'm going to obviously all, but things like design assets, backgrounds, all fairly self-explanatory, shapes, icons, stickers. I really like the stickers because they're automatically going to have animations put on them. So for the purposes of a demonstration, let's get one of those and put that in like a big red arrow pointing towards that cat, and then I'm going to say I want just something that's really, really inane and simple, maybe a flower, put that in there, and just for the purposes of this, I'm going to then click it, put it out there. That's fine for now. Now, what I have the opportunity to do in any of these assets is I click them, and then we say, right, as soon as I click it, it gives me the options to edit. I can change the colors, I can change the styles, I can change all of those obvious things, but I really like the fact that we can also animate every single item on the page. If I click the animation button, we have our three options, which we'll all be pretty familiar with a lot of other tools. I can say, what do I want it to do? Is it an animate in? Is it a loop? Or is it an animate out? And there are a lot of different things that we can put in. So if I say, oh, I want that to kind of bob, and as I hover over it with my mouse, it will show you what that's going to look like. If I want it to jitter, I can do that. If I want it to spin, let's put spin in for that flower. If I go back to edit, let's make that color, let's go maybe something a little different color, custom color. Let's go make it maybe an orangey color, match in with what I'm doing. And if I want it to really, really match, I have a eyedropper tool, which is a color picker. So if I click that little eyedropper tool at the top of my colors, and I say I want to click that, I can come over onto my screen and I can select any color that I like. And if you know the hexadecimal actual color and you've got a branding, you can put that in as well. So let's say that's exactly the same color, and away I go. Now, at any moment, as I've mentioned before, I can go down to the bottom of the page and I can click on the timeline. I click the plus, click the play button. I don't know why my little character's not actually coming through at the moment. I think I know. Nalan, I have discovered. I think I know. This is what we need to do. In my Your Stuff section, that has come through, and that is going to be an animated character, but it is not an MP4. I need it to play as an MP4. So for the purposes of this, because it hasn't fully come through into my cloud as yet, it's still processing. That will take a few minutes. If you want it to be quick and you want it to be done in a classroom environment, because your students are going to want it done right now, what you can do, you can download it. Now, if you click download and you say, I want it to be what option? I've got the options to have it as a PNG, JPEG, PDF, whatever I want it to be, or I want it to be an animated GIF, best for animations. For the purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to leave it as an MP4 video file. If I click the download video file, that will then start downloading. Your students will then be able to put that in immediately rather than it being processed in the back end in the cloud. That's one of those things. I have realized that is still in the process of processing, which is probably not the best sentence, process of processing. Anyway, now, if I then say, right, got that, got it in my downloads folder, back over here, and I say, okay, let's put in again, I'm going to go over and say, I want to go Your Stuff. I can click upload from device. I can get my downloads folder, animated character MP4, open. Again, let's shrink that down. We've now got a big play button on it, whereas you notice on this one, I don't have a play button. So I've got my little cutout background. If I say I want to remove the background again, obviously can. At the moment, still, it is processing. It is processing. It's processing a piece of video content, which will take a little bit of time. And while I'm screen sharing and in the middle of a video conference and sitting on Wi-Fi, that will take seconds. It doesn't take minutes, doesn't take hours, but it definitely takes seconds. We still have the option to remove background. But now, because I have that on there, as I click my timeline, the Everest cat has finally appeared. We didn't know if this was... Now, that content is starting to come together. As we may not have noticed, because I had this sitting over the top. I'm going to put that just over here into the corner, so it's sitting out of the way. That little animation that I put in at the beginning, that little arrow, if you notice it, if I click the play, it's going to be a hang on, edit timeline. Let's get back to the beginning. Oh, goodness me. Come on, shrink. Doing everything in the wrong order here, Nala. That's fine. So if I click that down, if I click play, the little arrow comes in automatically. Everest has finally appeared. We didn't know if this was going to be a real thing in our life. Looking pretty good so far. And as we can see, in a bit of a rush, and I understand that all my formatting and everything's kind of, all over the place, and we've thrown it onto a page. It's already looking like something. We have got a AI-generated image. We have got AI-generated animations with voice-activated, what do you call it? It's using your voice and your inflections to animate the character. We've then got stock footage, we've got voice to text, we've got animated features. We can even animate the headings if we like, and we can click on the animation and we can get all of those in as well. And we can say, I want that to come in. I like the typewriter effect. Where's the typewriter effect? I click typewriter there. I like that typewriter effect as it comes in, and automatically we've got something that is a multimodal text using student articulation and communication, AI generated images, and we've made something that is really, really modern. Now, I would really like to be able to answer people's questions rather than me just talking non-stop for the entire session. We are almost out of time, but we have a few minutes to go. Is there anything that we would really like? Someone I can see in the chat has said, can you adjust the layers on the right-hand side? Absolutely. So let's just say, for example, I've got this sitting over the top of my image. and I want that to come down a little bit. So on the right hand side of the screen, I've got my layers, and if I want that to move down, I can simply start shuffling and moving that down. And as I go down a little bit further, if I want it underneath my heading, I simply put it down underneath the heading. Excellent question. Yeah. Any other questions, please put them in the chat, because I would really like to be able to answer people's direct questions or things that they're wondering or things that they're thinking, how would I do that in my classroom? Because doing this in front of students is it's a bit of a process, but I have done this right down to like year one, so 6-year-olds. And to get 6-year-olds to do this is really exciting. One thing I did notice, I thought that was really interesting. With the generate an image option, where what we went right back to at the start, and I clicked, hey, I want to actually generate an image. I had some, I think they were year two, so 7 and 8-year-olds. They simply said that they wanted to have a monster dripping in slime. And I don't know why, but it picked up slime as a not safe prompt, and it said, nope, can't do it. So it's pretty strict with what you can put in. So if your students want to try and make something that's a little bit too gross, it won't let them. Can you adjust your picture? No, you need to create a new one. So if we click on this image, it's now the options that I have for editing are that we can say, hey, excuse me, that we can erase the background, we can remove objects, we can do all those standard things. We can generate a similar image, but it uses another one of your generative AI credits. So that's something to be aware of. So really worthwhile talking to your students in your classroom and say, you've got 10 credits to start with. Well, that's in my system. They have 10 credits to start with. And if they use them all up, it's going to say, nope, you've used up your credits for now. So make sure your students are actually aware of that. All right, any other questions? Please type them in, because we are almost out of time. When do the credits reset? I believe it's monthly. So if I click on mine, I'm now saying that my, it says next reset for me is the 2nd of November 2025, and I've used 2 credits during this session. And how long do they last for? I'm fairly sure that they are indefinite. I'm probably, you know what? I don't know for sure. However, I know that they reset once a month, and if you've got some left, it doesn't go beyond what your maximum top up is. So I've got 500 as a maximum in this particular account that I'm using. If I don't use any by next month, it only just bumps back up to 500. It doesn't go beyond that. If I go all the way down to having 1 left or 0 left, it will still bump me back up to 500. All right. Any other questions? And I want everybody to have a chance to get to their next session and make sure they get a coffee and all that kind of thing as well. All right. Last thing. Someone's just asked, do you have 500 due to your system, or is that due to premium? That account is actually due to premium and my system. It's that's a little bit of a peculiarity. I am a system admin, so I get more credits, and I've actually negotiate that. And the reason why I've got more credits is because I'm demoing this a lot, and I'm demoing this to multiple classes a day. And sometimes I could use 5 or 6 per session per day, and I'll run out very quickly. So it's one of those things to be aware of for yourself. Most teachers are probably in a situation where they're going to demo this a couple of times, whereas I'm in a situation where I'm demoing it an awful lot. Now, absolute last thing, as I'm leaving, so we've gotten through the session and we're starting to run out of time. Any more questions, please type them in, and I'll get to those just before the end of the session. But when you are done, you have 2 options at the top of the screen. We have the option to share. Now, if I click the share button, we're pretty familiar with sharing. In my system, it comes in and it uses the Active Directory, and it says, hey, I would really like to be able to share this with somebody in my system. So if I start typing in someone's name, it will come up with every single person in the New South Wales Department of Education, and it uses that Active Directory. You can obviously share that with people, you know, their email address. You can say I want to have invited people to access. I want to have people within my system to access. But my favorite features are it incorporates learning management systems. So I can actually say that I want my students to share this directly into Google Classroom or Microsoft Teams, whatever your learning management system of choice is. And then you can say, hey, I want you to hand this in as an actual assignment. Now, the other option is that you can download. Now, because this is animated and it's got video features in it, we're going to say, well, what do I want to download that as? So we can download that as a movie file, which can be dropped into other things and then stitched together. But students really love the fact that we can actually download this as an animated GIF, and then that's like a little standalone sticker that they can put into other things and have that as or a gift, so that they can actually then plant that in to something else and share that within whether it be Microsoft Teams, whether it be Google Classroom, whatever it is, and that can sit there and it's an auto play function. So depending on what you want it to do. Really, really nice features with the sharing and management system for handing everything in. Okay. Last chance to add any questions, and then I'm going to wrap this session up. Excuse me, everybody. I'm just going to bring up our final screen. So thank you for being part of the 2025 Adobe Conference. We have a couple of feedback QR codes that please fill in. Anybody who has been a part of this session, I thank you immensely. I hope that we have all gotten something out of it. The session has been recorded, so if you have anything that you think, oh, I'd really like to get back to that, please go back, watch the recording, fill out the feedback forms, and I guess we'll see you in the next session.